Welcome back to a new episode of Coach's Corner, this time Boys Water Polo Edition. I'm Jake Lancer with Danny Lynch for HWTV, and today we're joined once again by varsity head coach Jack Grover. The Wolverines are currently 11-3 coming off a loss to JSerra on homecoming, but it was a hard-fought battle all the way down to the last second. Coach, let's focus on some of the positives before we break down the game. The fact of the matter is the team went toe-to-toe with the top 10 team in the nation through 4 quarters of water polo. It's evident that the team's very talented, and I think that we'll see a deep postseason run ahead. What was the game plan going into Saturday?
Well, so there's no secret, we pretty much prepared for that game for 2 weeks, right? We played Oaks and PV, who are 2 solid teams. But in the entire time in the back of our minds, we knew that we were preparing for this game. So a lot of preparation did go into it. And I think if you guys have a pretty deep water polo knowledge, it's apparent because we ran 2 new defenses that we really hadn't run so much. But what the biggest piece of preparation was just committing to doing the little body positional things the right way. And I thought we did an excellent job of that. One of the other things was making sure that we're making certain players beat us. And the person that we didn't want to beat us was the guy who went off for 6 goals. So, there's definitely some positives. I think it's the best that our team has communicated together and played for each other to this point of the season. But also, that was a big focus, is not giving that guy too much time and space. And I think we did a decent job, but you can see with a player that dangerous, you give him an inch, and sometimes those 6 inches are 6 goals. So, it was tough, but at the same time, a lot of positives. You're right.
This weekend, you guys have a big tournament coming up. Can you explain to the viewers the importance of tournaments and how they affect standings?
Yeah, absolutely. So this tournament that we're having here, it's 8 teams. The idea is to try and get the 8 best teams in the nation there. And there's some fluctuation from year to year, but that's going to be the goal that we try to have continuing to go forward. As far as rankings, 2 of the teams that we will very likely play, one for sure, are 2 of the top 3 teams in the nation. I believe Newport's ahead of Mater Dei right now. But either way, yeah, they're 2 of the top 3 teams in the nation. And we're guaranteed to play Newport. If we take care of what we should take care of in bracket play, we'll get to play JSerra again. So that's two games against top 3 competition. Could it hurt our rankings? Maybe, but if you're in the top 4, I think that's pretty ideal. So the implications aren't too crazy for us unless we lose a game that we're absolutely not supposed to.
Again, going into this tournament, you're playing high-level teams. So what is your strategy going into this weekend?
I think we're just going to focus on the same things that we've been focusing on. I think now is when trust is really starting to manifest, between the group and each other, between the group and myself and the group as well. So just try and build on where we left off on Saturday. And look, that game, as we've already discussed, okay, we lost by 2 to the best team in the country right now, right? But there's a lot of positives, and we're going to get a lot of feedback. We already started watching the game yesterday, and I think the guys are seeing that if they're doing the things that I'm asking, we're right there with every single team.
Just to go off of Danny's question, going into this tournament, a lot of great teams and a lot of teams with different playing styles. With not a lot of time to prep in between each game, how do you guys plan on attacking all these different teams?
Now, realistically, we do have a decent amount of time to prep just because these are teams that we're actually pretty familiar with. Miramani, who we play in the first game, we played in they run a summer tournament called the Elite 8, and it was down at Mater Dei. We played them, I think, our opening game, so we have the film on that we can watch. Cathedral, that's Del Mar's club team, who was a little bit of our 16 under team's kryptonite this club season, but they ended up being able to pull through and beat them and win a JO championship. We're familiar with these teams. But I think the biggest thing is we don't need to change the way that we operate for anyone. And if we do things the way that we know we're supposed to, we're going to be right there with every single team we play. So it's not so much of focusing on every little detail of what the other team does as it is making sure that we're doing the little details of our own system the right way. And I think that's what's going to carry us far, especially going into a postseason down the line.
Makes sense.
In your physical game against JSerra, you guys were outscored in the third quarter. So looking off of that, what adjustments do you think you might be making with that?
So actually going into halftime, I told the guys, I think the score is 5-5 at that point, right?
4-4. What doesn't matter.
Yeah. Something like that. I tell them before every game, it doesn't matter if we go up by 3, down by 3, up by 4, down by 4. We have to stay the course. And look, I think we went down 3 for a stretch there. And they did a really good job of staying the course and battling back into within 1. Okay, the kid Ryder hits an insane shot in the fourth. That was professional level, right? No angle on the wing. I think he had about an inch to miss, and he somehow squeezed it in. And if that's the kind of goal that we're going to take, I think that's a pretty good testament to how our defense was playing that day. I mean, Baxter was amazing. I thought our defense, we hadn't been that lively and communicative to this point. I hadn't seen our team play like that. But the bottom line is it takes 30 seconds of defense, and there's a couple plays you can break down where we played 28 seconds, or for that shot maybe it's 29 and a half seconds, and that's what they get, you know. So the adjustments, I mean, I don't think there's really necessarily needs to be so many, except committing to playing all 30 seconds and playing all 30 seconds with the right body position. And it's tough, but once you start doing it, it becomes a lot easier, just like any other sport. Like probably for you, Danny, I'm sure conditioning in soccer wasn't that fun running, and it gets much easier as you start to do it the right way. So that's the goal for us.
Also, this game, you guys were neck and neck throughout most of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, you had shots going everywhere. Daniel was scoring a flurry of goals,
Yeah.
just a lot going on, and you had a lot of strong arms just scoring, and there was many players who scored in this game, actually. And how are you looking to utilize that in this upcoming game?
I think that's the beauty of this team is that I think we played 16 kids, if I'm not mistaken. And not a discredit to JSerra or anything. I think they played 9, maybe 9, 10, something like that. But in a tournament setting where you're playing game after game, there's going to be 2 days where we play 2 games. I think that kind of plays into our hand in a way, because we're rotating so many guys and giving so many different guys experience. And it's nice not having to rely on one person or 2 people. Of course, Daniel in this game, for me, I thought he was unbelievable. Honestly, he played really, really well. And not just because of the goals, because of the way he was communicating with his teammates and playing patient, which was a big thing for him going into this year, making sure that he's doing things under control. And I'm really proud of the way that he played. But it's nice to know that we have a lot of guys who can do that at the same time. So we're going to go with the same thing, continue to let a lot of guys play. But also that helps because our guys are going to be more rested.
Oh, man, beat me to one of my next questions. I was going to ask about how deep this team is and how it'll benefit you guys. But I guess we'll move on here to just another, or if you want to add to it.
Just real quick, there's some guys who didn't even get to go in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is something that's pretty cool about our team is even the guys who didn't get to go in are like, I know that that's what was best for the team in that moment, and I'm ready whenever you need me, which is pretty special.
Yeah, definitely. One of the big takeaways from the game, in my opinion, was that you guys had one of the best starts to a game this season that you've had, and that real mentality of, you scored really quickly and played really solid defense to start.
Yeah.
How did that sort of propel you guys into that third quarter? And along with that, how did it set the tone for the game?
That was one of the very last things I said. I said, why not go out and strike first? Because we had prepared for that, prepared for being on the defensive after scoring once. And actually, we played a defense where if the other team misses, we're ready to go the other way really quick. With Jack Berghardt in the lanes, who's one of the fastest guys in CIF right now. I mean, we always joke about how I'm faster than he is because my first week here, I made them swim a really tough swim set and then raced him when he was really, really tired. But Jack, if you're listening, you're faster than me, all right? We completely missed him on the counter. And that's tough because you score, you play a certain style defense, and you go the opposite way and really put them in a position where they're on their heels and the ball doesn't get delivered.
Yep.
That could be 2-0 where they're starting to look at each other like, whoa, where did this team just come from? But I think the precedent that it set was we don't care who's on your team, the superstars, anything like that. You still have to play us and work your way through us. And I think we made them do that. Although, looking at the film, there are some pretty crucial mistakes, just like that one on the third play of the game.
Yep.
So.
Big game against Newport Harbor coming up on Friday. You've played them before.
Yeah.
I'd call them a rival at least, considering the amount of times you've played them. After looking at the film from last game, is there anything in your game plan that you're choosing to change?
Yeah, how much space we give certain players, for sure. Also, there was a lot of times where guys were simply going back to defense on their end instead of committing to playing all 30 seconds of defense like we already said. We started cheating out with them. That's the signs of being a little bit undisciplined. And I think at this point we're a different team for sure, a much more disciplined team. But we'd also be mistaken if we don't think that Newport's making those adjustments too. So the same things that I've been saying, committing to playing all 30 seconds of defense. And I think with how many weapons we have, we've already talked about this a little bit offensively, we're going to get our opportunities. And just making sure we're making the most of our opportunities instead of shooting a ball over the goal or a bar out, really challenging the goalies to block our shots. Because we get to go against some amazing goalies every single day in practice, and not just one, multiple. You know, I think our second and third goalie, they'd be starting on a lot of teams that we're playing against. And falling back on that, I think the confidence all comes back from the training, and we need to start believing that.
On the topic of defense, obviously you implemented a new defense against Jay Sarah, and now you'll be able to utilize it against other teams. How do you think that'll catch Newport Harbor off guard?
I mean, I know Newport Harbor's watching the
Yeah.
film. I don't think it's going to catch him off guard. Ross and I talk almost every day. And he's actually been a pretty good mentor for this 5-month period or 6-month period that I've been here with Harvard Westlake. I don't think we're necessarily catching them off guard, but I think if we're committing to doing it the right way, it should be hard for anybody to play against. So it doesn't matter what they know is coming or don't know is coming at this point. It matters if we choose to execute it the right way, the way that we know we can, the way that we try to every single day in practice. And if that happens, it's going to be a really tough game for them. But there's no promises that we're running that.
Yeah.
Ross, if you're listening.
We'll make sure to put it out after the game. Yeah.
So, I was looking at your team up actually, and I came across an article that was done at the end of August, and it just discussed the deepness of your team and like the college-like training and how you guys are able to utilize this hockey-like transitioning. But something that also really stood out to me was that there was a part that discussed you guys, the team, making a comeback from that loss last year in the semifinal of CIF. And I was just wondering, like, going into the future, how are you looking to get that CIF championship win?
I mean, I try and stay really consistent in my message to these guys, so I'm sorry that I'm not going to say anything crazy or different, but it's getting the confidence from what you do every single day in training. You know, when you're taking a test, you're not going to be very confident if you haven't done your homework every single day and done your readings every single day and paid attention in class and studied the right way. And I'm trying to make the pool an extension of the classroom an extension of the pool, you know, vice versa, the weight room, the same thing. And I just want them to know that they've done it the right way so they get to be confident. They've earned the right to be confident in those situations, and letting that carry them through. That and how strong our group is carry them through to a CIF championship. And if they do it the right way and it doesn't happen, at least they can look back at the end of the day and say, I couldn't have changed anything. So I think that's more valuable than any part of water polo. It's not a sport that you're going to retire off of. So just making sure that they can take that confidence forward in whatever they do after this, I think that's the most important thing. And a byproduct very well could be a CIF championship, especially with a group that's deep and talented.
Lastly, just wanted to touch on junior Dean Strouser. You know, last year he was really in a role of being a flashy scorer that was always shooting. And, I mean, he was making it almost all the time. And while he can still do that, it feels like this year he's taken on sort of a game manager type of role where he's really setting up his teammates really nicely. And we saw that a lot against Jay Serra. How have you seen his game evolve over the season so far?
Defensively, he's playing really, really well. He's someone that we can rely on for sure. I think offensively, he's getting those same opportunities, but being a little bit more mature and patient about the opportunities he's taking, especially when we know a lot of the teams that we play against, if you play it down to the very last second, there's wide open opportunities. And I think Dean, as he goes forward, he's going to be hitting shots just like last year. But what's the best thing about him is his approach hasn't changed. And that's what you need if you're a shooter, because your confidence can easily fluctuate based on a ball being tipped or a bar out or something like that. But instead of getting inside his own head, he's still approaching the same way every single time, even when he doesn't receive the ball when he should. So I'd expect that, honestly, that role is going to be similar from last year, where he's going to be hitting some big shots down the line. But to see how he's developing the other sides of his game is what's the most special part about Dean to me.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Sorry about my voice.
No problem.
Still recovering.
Good luck to you guys this weekend in your tournament. I'm Danny Lynch with Jake Lancer, and we'll see you next time on Coach's Corner. Enjoy the game.